How you doing, all right? That lots of people, and it's a common thing nowadays for lots of people to say the lockdowns, the pandemic measures, the Democrats in America, the movements around green or around climate change issues are some kind of communist conspiracy. And so I thought I should address those things and put them in a bit of historical context, so those who don't know much about Karl Marx, they can go away from watching this video or attending this meeting and know a bit more about the actual person and ideas of Karl Marx. So I thought I'd start off with the very beginning point, and that is this thing here. Now, this is probably the oldest historical object ever to be displayed at Speaker's Corner. It's 80,000 years old, and it's a hand axe from Kenya. And hand axes were the method by which human beings changed from apes to humans. Those who haven't fully changed are dressed over there in the yellow. They still hold, instead of using hand axes to develop the mental capacities, they use a stick, a piece of wood. And Karl Marx once wrote, along with Friedrich Engels, that the origin of the state is contradictions between different classes over property, and the state emerges as stick-wielding monkeys in defense of existing property relations. And that, of course, every one of them conforms to this, that even in 2024, 200 years or 180 years after Marx was writing, they are still stick-wielding monkeys. And if they want to control unrest, they give you a quick whack on the head with a piece of wood, and it's a very effective mechanism for control. Last week, they were doing it in the United States of America against children of the elite were being attacked by stick-wielding monkeys in defense of Israel and the interests of Israel around the world. That's what happened last week. And then now I went past University College London this morning, and outside University College London there is a TSG van waiting to do the same thing on the campus in London against children of the elite who have woken up to the role that Israel plays around the world in controlling people. Now, the alternative to the stick was the stone shaped by human beings in a process called napping. As you can see, there are small marks on the side here which have happened after this time, but the rest of it has remained in the form shaped by a human being about 80,000 years ago. And this ability to shape these stones, to shape the tools that allowed us to move out of Africa, to conquer Europe, to move to China, to move to the Americas, this instrument that the British Museum's director calls the passport to the world is what distinguished us from all other animals. And because we can shape tools and use tools to shape the external environment, we have been able to distinguish ourselves from all other animals to develop language, which came out of tool making. By making the external world, using tools, we require the ability to communicate. And our larynx developed because initially when we lived in the trees, our hands were not dexterous, but when some climatic change happened, which Engels said happened probably about 6 billion years ago, humans were compelled to leave the forests and go onto the plains. And when they're on the plains, they adopt, you can see a chimpanzee or a bonobo, when they're on the plain, they will adopt an upright position. You can see them in the zoo. They'll adopt an upright position, they'll look around at the world, and they'll even do some steps walking around. And you can teach a bonobo, less degree a chimpanzee, how to shape a rock, how to make a rock serve. And there's an educational project and a scientific study goes on in Georgia in the United States of America, where humans and bonobos interact, And when they tried to train the bonobos, their pygmy chimpanzees, to do the task that human beings can do, and they've taught some bonobos to make images, to shape rocks, and also to use rocks as cutting implements, and to make elementary language. So we know from studies on the human brain that those people in archaeological societies who are trained to make hand axes, these are what we carried around with us for 2 to 2.5 million years. They showed that when they put a three-dimensional scan on the brain of a person who can make a hand axe, the same areas of the brain are active as when you use language, which confirms what Marx and Engels wrote in the 1860s about the origin of language. This is reflected here. As I said, this is kind of an educational program for you. But this is from the 1950s from China. And it shows, it's an educational poster showing how human beings developed, how their hands changed from ape hands to be able to manipulate the external environment by controlling tools. I'll take you 1 second. Then they were able to use sticks for the purposes of hunting and gathering. And later, they developed more sophisticated tools, such as the pen, the computer, the robot, all of which are basically functions of the ability of human beings to shape nature and thereby shape the external environment. Yes, sir? Where did I get it from? From Beijing flea market. Your question, sir.
Darwin.
Yeah.
Racist.
Many people are accused of being racist. And if you look at the language we use today, and the language used in the mid-19th century, nearly all intellectuals of the day would be called racist. That doesn't mean that they are racist. Karl Marx used the N-word regularly. He also condemned Jews. He said, the Jews worship money, in a typical phrase in the way that all people, including early Zionists, he was a Jew himself, but he said the Jews worship money. Now, in his article on the Jewish question, he was using the same language as Jews themselves used about themselves, as the founders of Zionism used about Judaism as well. So yes, many people use language in the past that you would conceptualize as racist. Now this is, however, this piece here is not about Darwin. It's not about Darwin. This is the Marxist theory of the origin of man. The Marxist theory of the origin of man is different to Darwin's. Darwin argued that there is a clash between species for the development of the species, which I think is relatively accurate. But he did not argue in detail about the development of humanity. Marx, however, argued, you don't have to agree with their argument, but I'm trying to expound what their argument is. Marx argued that human beings developed from ape precisely because they could shape their external environment, and that led to them, through tool making, to shape the world around them, and the battle in society then became not a battle like animals have. A bird doesn't worry about, this boundary here, it just flies through it.